Hello everyone, Karnasa here, and welcome to another Kerbal Space Program 2 video, and in this one, I will be building this space station using only space shuttles. I will preface this station build by saying that things might be a little bit more choppy than usual due to the fact that this took quite a long time to build, and in order for this to be a reasonable length video, I sped it up 18 times in editing. So if you want to skip ahead to the launches, that will be at 2 minutes and 21 seconds. If you are still here and you want to know more about this build, definitely go check the live stream that I built this on, because I kind of go over more of my thought processes on that, and you get to see the whole build in real time. But essentially what I wanted to do here was build something sort of similar to the ISS, but at a much smaller scale, and be able to launch it entirely within the Mark III cargo bay. So of course this isn't going to be some massive ridiculous space station, no, because I am very limited in the size that I can actually fit into that bay. And I started off the build with the core piece, and I knew that the core piece would fit inside that bay, and then I built every single other part around that, and then that way I did know that everything would fit in the space shuttle, so I would be able to launch everything. Absolutely no other rockets are being used to build this space station. That is part of the challenge that I wanted to do. How big of a space station could I make using only space shuttles without going personally crazy over the bugs that are currently plaguing the game? Well, the answer is, as you saw at the beginning of this video, it was reasonably sizable. I absolutely am certain I could do something bigger, but as I was building this on a live stream, obviously, I wanted to get to launches, and building streams are fun and all, but I'm pretty sure everyone wants to see a rocket launch go terribly wrong whilst I'm live. Currently, I am just working on the solar trusses that will provide the majority of the power for this space station using those gigantic new solar panels that are included in stock KSP2. I do want to say every single part of this space station does have a probe core on, it does have RCS, it has communications, it has absolutely everything that it will need for me to be able to control it once it is undocked, or should I say unseparated from the space shuttle, so that it can then go and dock on its own to the space station. Because, well, right now, undocking things that are docked together does not work. No, so in order to actually have cargo in the cargo bay of this, it is separated from the space shuttle by a separator. That also does mean I can use struts to hold the cargo in place and hopefully prevent the cargo from going all over the place and flying whilst I attempt to launch this shuttle. And here we go, launch attempt number 1, and the shuttle is at a very bad orientation and decides to hug the launch tower. Yes, this did not go as planned in the slightest. So it's gonna be a revert. One thing my viewers noticed on the live stream that I was doing this when attempting that test run was that I had infinite propellant on. So that time I made sure that it was turned off before I launched. And you may notice over on the right, on the stage info, for some reason it is back on. You can go and check the live stream if you want. You can see I make sure it's turned off and then I launch it, and for some reason infinite propellant got put back on. But I did notice halfway through the launch, or at least people were spamming me in the chat saying infinite propellant is still on, so here I am correcting that problem and carrying on with the launch. But that does mean I get a bit of a boost of Delta V to begin with, because obviously I haven't been burning any fuel. Not that that really matters though, because with this space shuttle design, I have plenty of Delta V to spare when achieving orbit. In fact, even if I load this up with full fuel tanks in the cargo bay, I still have a ridiculous amount left. This thing can really perform, and I think that does mean that the external fuel tank obviously may be a smidge too big, and I could probably make it a lot more efficient by making that smaller. But you know, the vectors are currently lined up nice. It doesn't wobble all over the place. It is quite a nice build. And talking of, if I can find out how to find the craft files, I'm sure I will if I give it a little bit of research, then the shuttle will be being uploaded to my Patreon. So if you want to grab this shuttle that I know somewhat works, there is a link to my Patreon in the description if you want to go check that out. But anyway, back to the video at hand. I have managed to successfully get the space shuttle in orbit. The cargo bays have opened, and the first part of the space station has been deployed by the space shuttle, unfortunately getting slightly bonked by it because I am a bit silly and didn't know which key to press to make the space shuttle go down when releasing that payload. But with that done, it is now time to try and return the space shuttle to Kerbin, and ideally I would like to be landing every single one of these at the runway. So I want you right now, yes you, I'm talking to you, to write a comment. Go down to the comments, write down the amount of times you think that I will land on the runway from space after having achieved orbit with the space shuttle. To help you out a little bit, I will mention that there should be, as long as everything goes completely fine, 7 launches in total. That's the core module, the 2 side modules, the cupola module, the solar truss, the docking adapter, and the stubby boy, which will be opposite the docking adapter. I just thought it looked cool. And I'm terribly sorry if you jumped the gun already and went down and wrote a 7, because yes, this landing was definitely not at the Space Center runway. Unfortunately, when building this, I got a little confused and ended up taking away the control surfaces on the back wings. Yes, that was rather problematic, but now we have shuttle number 2 with brand new improvements, including landing gear, another thing that I also forgot, and control surfaces on the back. Hopefully that does mean that when flying this through the atmosphere upon returning to Kerbin, it should fly a little better than a brick. But what we are launching to the space station right now is going to be the cupola module on the bottom of the station, so that our Kerbals have a lovely view of Kerbin when they are careening to their deaths when the space station inevitably falls out of orbit, which is a bug that I have been encountering quite a few times. And in my live stream, I had to correct the orbit of that once using the lazy orbit mod, and when I was doing this in my own time as well, I had to do that a further time, which we will see later on in this video. But there we go, orbit has nearly been achieved, so what I'm going to do now is roll the space shuttle, detach the external tank, and use the puff engines on the back of the shuttle to achieve orbit. That way, the external fuel tank will go crashing, hopefully not into some poor Kerbal's house on the surface of Kerbin, and we are not going to be leaving junk in orbit that may be harmful to all of the local solar bears. Yes, that was something that someone did mention on stream, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. We do not want to be harming the solar bears. No, we are ethical. We are a responsible space agency. We don't litter the place with all of our debris. No, I try and bring back as much of that as possible. By the end of this video, you will realize that that statement was completely false, and that I have completely destroyed Low Kerbin Orbit with the amount of debris that I have left, and that Kessler syndrome is a very real thing. But now let's go back to me on stream and discover just how much fun I had whilst attempting to dock the first 2 modules together. Can I control from... where's the docking port? What? The docking port has somehow mysteriously vanished. Has it gotten, like, stuck inside? I did not remove the... Oh my god. There was a docking port right there! Where did that go? Why? Why is it gone? Docking port, why have you abandoned me in my time of need? Why have you done this? And why are the Kerbals on board? The Kerbals were supposed to be on the space station, the space shuttle. Well, we're gonna have to relaunch this module again. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, and upon returning to the vehicle assembly building, I noticed that when I pulled that module into the space shuttle, it did not bring the docking port with it. So that is completely on me. I can't blame the game for this mistake. Nope, that was my own fault. But anyway, we are now going to be attempting our second landing of this video, and once again, I would very much like to land at the Kerbal Space Center runway. This time round, though, I have at least fixed the control surfaces on the back of the shuttle, and we do have landing gear, so we're not going to be suffering quite as bumpy landing as the first time round. Although I did notice that the control surfaces on the forward strakes are still present, so that is something that I absolutely am going to have to fix in the next launch if I don't forget about it. And there is a very high chance that I will forget about it, because I am a very forgetful man. But anyway, we are now in the lower parts of Kerbin's atmosphere, and you know what? This shuttle landing is looking incredibly promising. We are only 25 kilometers away from the Space Center right now, and we are closing at every single second. And here we are flying over the mountains just in front of the Space Center, and this looks like it very well may be a textbook runway landing. We have cleared the mountains now, and we definitely have enough speed to land on the runway, which is absolutely fantastic because, oh, I mean, I have done this once in Kerbal Space Program 2 before, but no one saw that, and this was being streamed live when I did this. So once again, let's go back to me and see what my thoughts were whilst doing this. Final countdown. Runway is flaring up, flaring up, flaring up, flare, 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 flare. Go, 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 go. And touchdown on the surface. And the space shuttle is down. I did it. Yes, space shuttle landed from orbit. Amazing! That was such a good landing, and I did that with 700 people here. Oh, that never happens. Yes, I was quite excited that I managed to successfully bring that space shuttle down onto the runway. So currently the tally is 1 shuttle 4 and 1 shuttle didn't land on the runway. And now I started my second stream and things were going off to a great start. Let's try that again. Unfortunately, the mission failed. And again, when I got the space shuttle to orbit, the wings decided to decouple. Brilliant! And finally, in the second stream, well, yes, things were getting a little bit spinny, so I had to shut down the game. And that's the end of the second livestream content that I have recorded on my PC. Upon restarting KSP2 to try and fix some of the problems that I was running into, OBS decided it had had enough and wasn't going to record anymore. If you do want to see the 2 extra modules that I docked over the course of that livestream, there is a VOD up on YouTube. Unfortunately though, I will not be able to edit that down in this video. For those of you that are wondering what the tally for landed shuttle is right now, well, in that livestream I successfully landed one at the runway and the other one ditched slightly before. So currently I am 2 for 4 in total. Yes, not promising, but at least I have attempted some landings. But once again, we have ditched the external fuel tank for this shuttle, which is currently carrying another one of the side modules for the space station, and we are going to make an orbit and begin our rendezvous procedures by spinning rapidly fast. That is something that is currently missing within KSP2, is the ability to skip orbits, although with the maneuver node controller mod, which I do now have installed, but I didn't have whilst I was filming this, you can now skip orbits like you did in KSP1, which is a fantastic addition, and I would highly recommend going and checking out that mod if you want to. Or alternatively, go check out my video that I released yesterday, which is a list of top 10 mods that currently make the game better and a lot more enjoyable to play. But we have managed to rendezvous with the space station, undock the side module, which is basically just a massive fuel tank. Ideally, this would be some sort of living habitat that our Kerbals would be in, but you know, we don't really have an awful lot of those in the game at the moment, and these kind of look like it could be a module that could contain Kerbals that just doesn't have any windows. That doesn't really matter though, because we have a huge cupola module at the bottom of this with 2 whacking great windows where they can see for miles and miles and miles. So if they've got some cramped tight space, I'm sure they won't really worry about it. But once again, of course, it is time to try and bring this space shuttle back down to the surface of Kerbin and hopefully land on the runway. And I will say about this landing, this probably was the best by far. I did not lose control of the space shuttle once during the descent, which is something that happened with pretty much every other flight that I have done, and I really think that I have the canards on the front of this space shuttle to thank for that. They provide a little bit more lift, and as you can see, as we are approaching the runway, it just glides down rather smoothly. A very buttery landing indeed, and one that I was incredibly proud of. Now, what happened here is, once again, when I landed the space shuttle, the space station somehow got pushed out of its orbit, but thankfully, as mentioned before, I had lazy orbit, which was able to fix that orbit and put it back in its correct position. And we will go to the 6th launch. Yes, this is the 6th launch for the space shuttle. I had to think about that for a minute there. We are almost done. There should, theoretically, only be one more launch after this, because, I mean, I've docked everything else together. And I'm going to speed through these space shuttle launches a little bit more now, because we've seen them being launched 5 times already. I don't need to show you every single little detail. But we are back in orbit, and this time we have a solar truss to deliver. And thanks to the magic of video editing, we are already pretty much at the space station with the 2 solar truss inside the cargo bay of this space shuttle. Yes, I wanted to bring both of them at once. That way it would mean that I do 1 less launch than would be required if I brought these up individually, but sending 2 modules up at once is not a great idea. But they are able to be successfully deployed from the cargo bay, and they don't dock together, which is definitely a problem that I did encounter in a future launch, and that caused things to get very, very spicy indeed. Anyway, we are perfectly lining up this. I wanted the orientation to be correct, you know. Bit of a stickler for accuracy, but there we go. We have docked the first one to the space station, and what we will do is unfurl these gigantic solar panels. They really are big, and hopefully they will be more than adequate to power this entire space station, especially once we get this second one on board as well. Realistically, I probably only needed the one, but you know, it's always nice to have symmetry. But here we are. I spent quite a lot of time docking these, to be honest. The RCS on these weren't brilliant. They were placed in a position that meant that the controls were all kinds of weird, and I was having a very difficult time actually getting that together. That was about, 30 seconds of this video, maybe slightly more. That took me about 2.5 hours in real life to get those docked. Yes, once again, be thankful for video editing. But with those two docked and the space station pretty much looking complete, it is time to bring down the space shuttle once again. And this was certainly one of the more problematic landings of this video, in the fact that the space shuttle decided to flip backwards. I may be known for upside down rockets, but I have never attempted to fly a shuttle in the wrong direction before, and no matter what I did, no matter how hard I wrestled with the controls, I was unable to get this back to a forward-facing position. Well, not whilst I was in the upper atmosphere at least. When I did get to about 3 kilometers above sea level, I was able to turn the shuttle round into the correct orientation, as we can see here, but that did mean that I bled off the vast majority of my speed a ways before I got to the space center. And I do have some monopropellant left over that I can burn to try and get closer, but that does not, well, it's not enough. It's definitely not enough, and unfortunately I come down crashing in a field about 30 kilometers away. A very soft landing though. I've just realized I said that the last space shuttle launch was the 6th launch. No, it wasn't. It was the 5th. This is the 6th launch, and currently we are on 3 landings not on the runway. Ouch! And 2 landings for. Hopefully I can at least get half of them, or, well, no, it won't be half with 7 launches in total, because you can't have half of 7. It doesn't round nicely, but hopefully I can maybe still achieve over half. I definitely can, but that was a little bit unfortunate. We got the space shuttle to orbit, but I forgot to turn off the vectors after decoupling the external fuel tank, and those vectors are pointed through the center of mass whilst having that fuel tank attached onto the bottom of the shuttle. So if I fire them up when it's not attached, well, we create an artificial gravity space shuttle, which is really not what I want to be doing. But there we go. Once again, we have made our way over to the space station. And this, in the cargo bay right now, is the first docking adapter, or really the only docking adapter. It's nice and long, and it's going to stick on the side, and hopefully that should mean that I will be able to use the docking port that we can see in the space shuttle right now to actually connect to the station. Yes, it would be nice to have some way of transferring Kerbals across, and I did think things through whilst designing this, but now something is clearly going wrong with that shuttle. Seriously, I'm not controlling that right now. I was trying to get a beauty shot and the game decides, no, shuttle spin. Shuttle goes spinny. So I had to switch back to the space shuttle and try and control it. I've got no idea why that was doing that. I had SAS enabled, and maybe that was the reason why. Another thing that I did notice is that the space shuttle did not actually have any crew on it, and it has no probe cores or anything like that, so it shouldn't be able to be controlled. But yep, here once again I'm attempting to land on the runway, and this time I am going to skip through the majority of the atmospheric re-entry because, well, there's no re-entry effects at the moment or anything like that, and we have seen multiple of these shuttles coming down. And if you actually want to see this full shuttle landing, that is the short that I uploaded the other day, with a bit of a Ryanair-esque landing. Yes, we bounce off the surface of the runway, but that is now 3-4 and 3 against. I am over half. It all depends, or I am at half. It all depends on this final launch, which is going to be the Stubby Boy. And I also put a further docking adapter in here because I noticed the Stubby Boy was quite short, and I had a little bit more room in the shuttle cargo bay to put something else in, so I thought, what better to add another docking adapter so I can dock even more things to this space station. That was my thought process, and I thought, you know what, I'm being smart here, I'm making space, I'm making use of all of the available space. But yes, things did not go very well, and when I try and time warp to fix this, things go even worse. It doesn't want to decouple at all. It's like the docking ports are welded together, and when I time warp, well, yeah, this happens.
No, 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 no.
Once again, I have unfortunately been plagued by the Kraken, and the gravity of this situation is quite dire. I did really want to get a picture of Sandra Bullock for this because, you know, it is a very gravity-esque situation. A space station being absolutely destroyed by debris. Remember what I mentioned about earlier about the solar bears and being kind to them? Well, yes, things were not going good. I also happened to lose my orbit marker, so I tried to get the space shuttle down, but that wasn't going to work when the engines also weren't working. Yes, things were not going well, but I could recover the space shuttle from space, and in order to get back to where I was, this. I so love lazy orbit. I'm only using that because it takes about 40 minutes to launch one of these in real time, and I got hit by the Kraken. That was a bug, and that really upset me. So I thought, you know what? Screw this. I'm going home. Well, not home, but, you know, I'm gonna get my space shuttle to orbit. I still did need to rendezvous and do all of that kind of rubbish, so it wasn't like I just teleported it immediately to the space station. But that mod, lazy orbit, did really help me out there. At least it stopped me from, you know, rage quitting the game, which I probably would have done if that mod wasn't there to help me. Doing that method did come with its own series of problems though, as the space shuttle did seem to be leaking fuel quite dramatically. So in order to fix this, I docked to the space station, refueled the space shuttle, and undocked it. And once again, I apparently didn't have crew, but this time round, the game decided that the space shuttle was no longer able to be controlled. And by this point, I was just quite fed up, and that leaves us on a tally of 3 out of 6, with 1 landing not attempted. Big thanks to Mr. Bluestar, Pentium, So Not the Hero Type, That Unreal Guy, Zoretya, and the rest of my patrons and members for their continued support. I have been Karnasa, like and subscribe for more, and I will see you later.